A big and warm welcome to Voice of Industry Panel 9, Enhancing Network Efficiency and User Experience, with the subtitle Strategies to Optimize Fiber Networks, Improve User Experience, and Maximize Return on FTTH Investments. My name is Christian Priess. I'm head of Europe, Africa, and Middle East at Hexatronic Group. We have today a very distinguished panel of 3 speakers. We hope very much at the end of their presentations that you will ask questions, so please don't hold back. As the first speaker, we have Carl Pertry. Carl is the Director of Business Development in the Network Infrastructure Business Group of Nokia. His role focuses on driving and developing fixed access network solutions, focusing on Tier 1 CSPs throughout Europe. Prior to this role, Carl held positions in sales and pre-sales, in IP Networks business unit and in R&D, and he's been with Nokia for more than 28 years. Then we have Kajsa Arvidsson. Kajsa is the Chief Marketing Officer of Genexus and based in Stockholm, Sweden. Genexus operates with the vision of bringing the world to everyone's home and a strong belief that fast and user-friendly digital connectivity improves people's quality of life. Kajsa brings over 20 years of experience from the digital telecom industry. She's been the CEO of 2 companies, CCO in one, headed marketing and communication in Nokia Europe, and headed organizations of partnership, business development, marketing, as well as sales in Ericsson. Since the early days of mobile internet, Kajsa has been a frequent speaker and evangelist in keynotes and analyst events. And last but not least, we have Erik van Uden, who has a long experience in the world of broadband networks in Europe. This ranges from design of the physical infrastructure to the actual protocols now used in FTTH. Erik has a technical background in tele and data communications. He's been working with AVM since the year 2000, and his responsibilities includes AVM's commercial activities within the provider world in the Netherlands. AVM, as you might know, is one of Europe's leading manufacturers of products for broadband connections and digital homes, and since 2003, Erik joined the Executive Advisory Board of the Broadband Forum. So as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, a very distinguished panel. We will start with Carl Pertry from Nokia with the topic, the era of faster and smarter fiber networks. Thank you. Carl.
Thank you, Christian. Thank you very much for those coming out so early. Good. All right. Fiber broadband has become the backbone of our digital lives, from powering work and education from home to enabling the steep rise of streaming and gaming technologies. As we move forward towards a more connected life, fiber broadband isn't just supporting that, it's actually driving that. And I want to take you through a few changes. The first big trend is that fiber is becoming the infrastructure to connect everything. And doing that in a faster, more energy efficient and sustainable way than any other technology, like mobile, satellite, copper, and even cable. Yeah. We are now connecting businesses, Industry 4.0, cell site, and smart cities. This change is enabled by the PON evolution technology that is creating this big pipe that is driving all the services over a single infrastructure. We are now showing a 100 times increase in speed in PON compared to 10 years ago. Operators can choose between 10 GPON, 25, and soon 50 and 100 GPON. We are, sorry. We are coming, you know, can have 10 GPON, 25 GPON, 10 GPON is available today. 25 GPON is ramping up with 20 deployments worldwide. 50 GPON is seeing its first demos and pilots, and 100 GPON will be available sometime soon after 2025. It is exactly this richness of GPON that allows the operator to choose the right technology for his business, depending on market demand and depending on the competition. We are running over 400 deployments with PON technology worldwide, and we are actually seeing that all of these PON deployments face different market conditions and different competitions. And actually, all of them need different combinations of these PON flavors. However, as the networks become more complex and are connecting more services and used for everything, the way we manage and control those networks will change. Nobody wants to manage 21st century broadband networks like 40 years old telephony systems. The networks have become and are becoming more sophisticated. Actually, there are more users on the network, deliver more services, supporting more business models, carrying more traffic, and that all in a multi-technology and multi-vendor environment. There is less and less room for trial and error. We are passing a point where humans alone can actually understand and manage the full extent of the network and its services. And on top, the networks are becoming mission critical. Many homes depend on their broadband subscription to work or to learn, and many businesses are run from home. So the key to change this manage and increase your operational efficiency is automation. And this is the second big trend that I want to discuss. Many businesses and many sectors are moving or going to a transformation from manual, labor-intensive work to automated and autonomous networks, which are driven by artificial intelligence and machine learning. Let me take a moment and align on the difference between automated and autonomous. So an automated machine takes actions based on a predefined set of heuristics. You could call it statically programmed rules. An automated machine, on the other hand, it learns, it gathers insights, learns again, and actually adapts to the environment and evolves as this environment adapts. Obviously, the final goal of this transformation is the autonomous network. And we are just starting to step into this area. I want to share a first lesson learned on this journey, and that is to not concentrate decision-making and action-taking that typically is for all of your network areas, network function, network nodes, into one place. Typically the OSS BSS, you have to distribute it over your network domains and functional areas. If you want to lift automation to the next level, artificial intelligence plays an important role. First is artificial intelligence helps you to make sense out of all the data and to process the collection of the vast amount of data in your network. Our newest generation of access nodes enable 10 times more telemetry, collecting a greater amount of data. And with analytics and AI, the operators can help to make sense out of all that data. For example, you can do anomaly detection before actually it becomes affecting your services. Secondly, AI helps to assist humans and provide the operator with insights. For example, a field technician can snap a picture with a smartphone of a fiber drop, and artificial intelligence will immediately analyze this and actually, say whether the fiber and the connector are correctly installed. So basically, less guessing, just faster and more reliable deployments. The last one is that AI can help with the network. You have the data, you can make decisions, so actually you can make more informed decisions to optimize as well your operations as your business processes. And an action in the network, you can actually start simulating it on a digital twin before you commit it to the network. Good. We are seeing tangible and real-world results from this automation project in the more than 160 deployments we are running worldwide. The first one is that operators are increasing their operational efficiency by 25 to 40% by reducing the number of manual interventions, by automating workflows, and by zero-touch provisioning, all there to reduce the human errors. Operators are maximizing network efficiency and maximizing their profitability with a 2 times increase in revenue by, for example, revenues with wholesaling and slicing, and by using better use of the network resources. Next is be agile, to respond to change, to introduce fast services and functions into your network to adapt faster to market conditions and to be able to innovate faster. Operators are able to innovate faster with an open ecosystem, delivering a 4 to 5 times increase on time to market. And this is the second lesson learned that I want to change, that I want to share with you. Combining automation with autonomy and artificial intelligence and agility requires openness. Okay, good. Sorry, there is something wrong with the slide, but we'll get to there. Good. There is no automation without openness. We have developed an open ecosystem in order to allow other parties to participate to the products and add to what we are building. There is, in this perspective, the possibility for any third party, for your engineering team, to add any functionality and any features to the platforms that we are building. In order to create that openness, this requires, for example, that our domain controllers all have open and standardized APIs. APIs for the functions, the interfaces, the databases, and the inventory. For example, you can develop a new feature, and you can actually seamlessly then integrate that into the platform, as said, and that independent whether it has been developed by us, by you, or by a third party. Apps can be manifold. They can be apps to monitor the network, to analyze the traffic, to analyze customer behavior, to predict trends, and also apps to optimize the network in the home, either for working or for gaming. So, I would like to summarize my talk with the following points. First, fiber to the home has become fiber to everything. The richness of the PON flavors allow the operator to provide the right mix for his multi-gig offer on the market, either based on 10 gig and 25 gig, which is right available now, or based, for the future on 50 and 100 gig. Automation is a reality, and operators are embracing it. It's shown its benefit, and they are embracing it in a way that they work with different speeds, and they introduce it for different purposes. There are two lessons that we have learned on this journey to autonomous network, and that is first, distribute your network intelligence, decision-making and action-taking over your network areas and functional domains. And secondly, automation requires openness, which requires that your domain controllers have open and standardized interfaces. This concludes my statement.
Good. Thank you very much, Carl. So we move on with Kajsa Arvidsson with effective or efficient ways to connect households.
We see. So, good morning. While Carl looked into the future, I will stay in the present. When we looked at the network, I will look into the home. Where we share view is the openness in the ecosystem. So in Genexis, we are strong believers in openness, fully interoperable ONTs, open source-based software in our gateways, containers that can host anyone's services. So, efficient or effective? Effective or efficient? Do the right things or do the things right? Classical dilemma. Combined, they are very strong. It means what gets measured, get done. And I want to focus this presentation on that maybe some things that used to be efficient now are effective, but maybe we missed the target. Yesterday's opening presentations looked into what does it take to take us from today's 74% coverage into 90% coverage. I think most of you remember the number. It takes 80 billion euros more to the already invested 140. We are today in a coverage rate of 74% in Europe, uptake of 53%, which gives us a penetration of 39%. So there are things that we need to consider. Could we do it more efficient to get consumers to understand the benefit of connecting to the fiber infrastructure? This 80 billion is supposed to come mostly from private funds, which means they also need a decent ROI. Again, if you need ROI, it means you need to connect consumers to the network, households, because they generate the money. And I must say I was very energized by the investors panel, where expression as customer satisfaction, net promoter scores, customer journeys were very frequent. So let's look into some areas where effective versus efficient could be applied. Let's start with the capable consumer. So installing a fiber into a household today, we as an industry, we think that consumers, they will appreciate that we do everything for them. We come with installers to the house, 3, 4 men, couple of times, and effective, absolutely. Fiber gets properly in, properly connected, subscription taken. But if we ask the consumers, do they want to stay home multiple days waiting for the installer to get this done? The answer is no. One time may be enough. So what if there was a do-it-yourself option? If we look at an efficient approach, because if it's not an installer, who could do this installation? The consumer? they are capable. Or if the job is to receive like a 200-gram package by the mail, open the box, take out the ONT, take out the power cord, take out the blind cover, twist it down, power up, and you're up and running. I would say that most consumers are very capable. Consolidating markets. In many presentations, also yesterday, it was repeatedly addressed that there were less consolidations than expected last year. Still, there were quite a few, and there are many more to come. One reason given for why there were fewer than expected is the complexity of the projects of doing the consolidations. Common when you start a network, any kind of network, is that you have dual supply of the critical components. So, for example, 2 OLT vendors. Growing by acquisition, you quickly have 4 OLTs in your network. Effective way to address this would, of course, be to continue to buy ONTs from 4 suppliers of end-to-end equipment. But that means that you quite quickly have a lot of different variants in your service and installation cars, and even more so if you start to add 10 gig into your offering. So if we take an efficient approach to this and look, what if there was one ONT that could talk with any of these OLTs, then you would go from 4 into 1 option in the van, and if you add 2 speed capacities in the offering, you can go from 8 to 2, and you will remain at 2 as you grow your network and maybe add on yet further OLTs on the network. Future-proofing homes. There are multiple ways to define that. One is by the fiber in itself. In my home market in Sweden, many households think that installing fiber in the household is a way to future-proof the value of their house. We have around 90% penetration in Sweden, so somehow it's a general accepted term that future-proofing your house needs to have fiber. The effective way to continue this would, of course, not be to encourage other markets to follow what is the investment in Sweden, because in Sweden we have to pay around 1,500 to 2,000 euros for this installation, no subscription included. But it proves the mentality of thinking that I invest in my house by having fiber to my house. We have about 60% of our households that are still on Wi-Fi 4 and Wi-Fi 5. So it's not that we are super techy by definition. So what would be an efficient approach to this? Well, if we can't encourage people by offering fiber because they don't know what they are missing, then maybe take as an example from Poland, where we see the operator offering trainings to different segments, for example, elderly people, to learn how is it to be part of the digital society? What could they do if they had a good, proper internet connection? For example, remote healthcare, interacting with different organizations that they are interested in. And in that way, stimulate the market to appreciate connecting their fiber or their household to the fiber. Then, last but not least, we needed the ROI. So we need to grow ARPU. And there is a famous expression in the Nordics from a very successful businessman. He says, "Sell the strawberries you have." But we all know that strawberries are not of equal value for everyone at the same time. You need to segment them. And I think the strawberries for us, and the cornerstone in the fiber subscriptions, is the speed. So, and we see already in markets that when you start to upgrade to XGS-PON or to 10G, that already on low double-digit numbers, the complexity starts to push the operator or service provider, because they can be different models, to give it to everyone. So also those who have no willingness to pay for 10G, they have no appreciation of this speed, and they don't see the value of getting a Wi-Fi 7 gateway included to this, they still get it. And it's a big loss of revenue, but it's also a big expense to deploy higher speeds to households that will not appreciate it. So if you use data from demographics, segmentation from customer surveys, from traffic behavior, and I think Eric will talk more about this, to see who are the households that will appreciate this and feel positive to pay for the value of it, then you need back to this do-it-yourself installation. If you can send it to those households, you start to have a very efficient machinery of growing business and a business model that is sustainable. You will also do some savings. Say that you have 100,000 households that you want to upgrade. If you have maybe an hourly fee for sending the track out of 75 euros, 40 minutes visit. If you can do this segmented, and you can do it with the do-it-yourself installation, your savings with the 95% success rate is over 2.5 million euros. That with more happy customer, better customer satisfaction, and a growing ARPU. Thank you.
Let's push a couple of times. Yeah. And then we move on to Erik van Uden with why should we have overall management of networks.
Goedemorgen. Good morning to everyone. Very interesting. It's always being the last in such a presentation. You can hook up by the other speakers. And there are some interesting elements. We have seen the future based on new technologies. We have seen the more here and now how to address our customers, how to make money with them. But from my point of view, we're still missing two elements. The first element is in the world, in a lot of countries, there you have the internet service providers, and they don't have an own network. They're using the network of a network provider. On the other hand, you have the end customer, and the end customer makes a phone call to his internet service provider, and the normal reaction is internet is broken. Okay, very interesting, because we think it's not the complete internet was broken, but as a part of his experience is a little bit broken, say nice. And now becomes very interesting, because how can I see as an internet service provider what's the case? Because again, he is calling the internet service provider. Do-it-yourself management, yes, of course, in the audience here they can help themselves, but the majority of the people who are using the internet technologies are not capable to help themselves. And as a part of this has to do what we as industry bring as product into a market. We still believe, and already mentioned by Kasia, we need Wi-Fi 7. Yeah, interesting, but when I have an ADSL line, why do I need Wi-Fi 7? Question mark. On the other hand, if we bring the 25 gig speeds called by Carl in our home, we need something to distribute these high speeds to the end devices. So this means now we're moving and migrating the homes to 10 gig networks based on cable, standard Ethernet cables, and we're using Wi-Fi technologies to distribute the connectivity to the end device. Okay, let's a little bit go more in depth. My talk is more or less something, is a standard called from the broadband forum called USP, the User Service Platform, also for some guys of you may be well known as TR369. And I think and still believe, not only I, but as in this industry, this is the way forward. Because we already learned we need to know what's happening, and happening in the whole chain. So from the OLT through the network device and to the end device. That's the only way how you can help your customers. Maybe you already used in your networks TR69. That's the, the traditional one, or the old one. I don't go in all the details, but if you look to what we have seen in the 369, it is more flexible, it's more data-driven, you can name it. You can build with the knowledge what you have, or within the database for the 369, you can do a lot, including using the intelligence of AI. USP is the basic, that's the where you have to start. What's the situation? Glass fiber connectivity is coming in using the FTU. FTU goes in a lot of cases into an ONT, and behind the ONT we have our CPE, in this case a Wi-Fi router. That's a lot of cases. The problem is that most of the cases the service provider is the owner of the router, and the network provider is the owner of the ONT. And the service provider receiving the phone calls, and he has no clue what's happening in the ONT world. So this might be a problem. There is USP. Is this a solution? From my point of view, yes, it is. And why it is? Because when you have all the stuff in one product, in this case an integrated device, you can use the several services and controlling with the several services as described in the data model TR181. You can help and you can control the whole chain of information. So it's not only the Wi-Fi part, but in this case it's as well the part from the fiber optic world, in this case the ONT, and all the information we find over there. The interesting is this protocol, this standard, this TR369 doesn't only work in fiber networks, so in the current world, but as well in the, the legacy world of DSL and DOCSIS. Same protocols, same standards, same use of the whole system, and you can, as a service provider with a hybrid network existing of all those elements, techniques, you can use exactly the same stuff and to help and to inform your customers. So there's no need to train the help desk agents on those several technologies. It's the same. How does it look like? Just an example. By using the protocol TR369, we can use several controllers. And as already heard, we can as well use apps. And the protocol is the basic, how we communicate to the devices and how we have an information system and where you are capable to do automatic configuration, but as well the whole stuff from monitoring and controlling your Wi-Fi network, as already said, but as well the fiber optic part, if we stuck to the fiber networks. And based on the standard. So this works not only with the hardware from AVM Fritz, but it does work very well with a lot of other vendors who are on the same standard. As already said, it is from the broadband form. So what I'm solving the problem that I have the several networks, the several elements of a network provider, and an ISP, and they're using exactly the same system. And what you can do with USP is that as well you can say, I have a controller for the network provider, and the network provider can only look into his elements, in this case the elements from the ONT part, as integrated in the CPE, and the ISP, who can monitoring and like to control and to help their customers based on the Wi-Fi part, or even the in-home network part based on the traditional copper cables. The interesting part is that you see as well in the broadband forum, there are more and more things coming up. I give you an example. Maybe a few of you have heard from the Matter. And Matter is more or less the standard common interface for communicating to devices in a smart home world. In the old world, you had an app from vendor E, you had an app for vendor B, and you had an app for vendor C, and with this you can control your home, your smart home in this case. By using the Matter technology, it's more simple, and the big ones like Google and Apple and all those big guys are trying to make a standard. It's in early stages, it's not finalized, but the beginning is there, and all the first apps are there. So you can control and can use one app and control several vendors. Now you might ask, what has this to do with USP? Okay, when entering this module into a USP module, and we have an issue because we know it's all talking IP, and one of the devices is frustrating your network, you're able to see, okay, you're able to control as a net service provider what's happening over there. Please do be aware, opt in. So the end user has to be an opt-in. Otherwise, you have some privacy issues. Last but not least, a little bit more in depth on the mainly used connectivity, and we already heard this in previous speakers. It's most cases Wi-Fi. And Wi-Fi is seen as the internet. But what we can do by using the USP module is to control and have a picture, an overview. Okay, what's happening? Is this router in the right environment? Is the distance between the end device and the router in the right environment? Do I have neighbors are disturbing me, and so on and so on? This is all possible. This is a real picture of a USP controller, and you can very easily see. And when you see there are some products running in the edge, a little bit too far, becoming more in the red zone, then they might have a problem. With the data model, we have seen, again, I must repeat, it's a standard. It's a standard used by the broadband forum, and I encourage everyone to go into this standard. With this data model, you're able to manage your customers, to see what's happening in the network, and to control all the stuff from the fiber up to the end device, to help your customers when they make the phone call and tell you again, internet is broken. As you already know, most cases, it isn't the complete internet, it's a part of his user experience. And USP can help with this. This is more or less my part of this session. Thank you very much for your attention, and hope to see you next time.
Thank you very much, Eric. Before we open up for any questions from the audience, I'd like to just ask a few questions to the panel. And Carl, let's start with you. AI sounds like something for large operators. How do you see it with smaller operators also?
Well, I do not think it's the case. I think that AI is for everyone, as well large and small operators, and for different reasons. So first of all, I think you can consider AI like a tool. What you actually do with it, instead of having what I call static programmed rules, you have an ability to have a dynamic in there in the rule set and to adapt. And in order to do that, actually, we start by training those additional applications, as I call it, with AI, we train them upfront with a very large data set. So it actually means the consequence of this is that you don't need afterwards to train that application with a very extensive online connection, training sequence, etc. So they can just be part of a tool, and they just need quite little interaction with the environment to keep on updating everything they do. So it's just a tool on top of what you then can say, for example, your domain controller. So it's very easy when you have a domain controller to add additional AI capability just because of that. On top, as you add it to an infrastructure, which is completely there with its function, its interfaces, its databases, you can actually also make that tool can access your data that you have within your domain controller. So, and this makes that it's a tool on top of your domain controllers, and it doesn't require much more other resources than just typically another tool. So it's as well suited, it's very well suited for also smaller operators.
Okay, interesting stuff. From your perspective, Kaiser, is AI then the tool for all improvements, or how do you see it?
Well, to start with, as I described, there are some very hands-on changes we can make. But going to AI, I think when you are on the network perspective, as both described by Carl and by Eric, yes, anything that can be simplified by consolidating a lot of data and take smart decisions, absolutely. I think that households in general are, even though we had Alexa and Siri, etc., we are careful of our homes. So going into user data when it contains of things that are very personal, then I think that the market is not ready for that. Right?
Okay.
I don't know. Do you agree?
I do agree with that, if I can react, but I don't hear myself. Yeah.
You're okay.
Well, I do agree with that. I think when you see artificial intelligence can play a very, I would say, effective role when you apply it in a closed system. And that is very good when it actually is within the contexts of the tool what you're doing. I think when you're going outside of that, in a network, you can do that. I agree with that. We then start looking at network behavior, customer behavior to learn from that, but that's on an abstraction level, which is then more flow-based. While if you take that in the home, you have access to much more personal behaviors where you can, of course, start an ethical discussion about.
Yeah, I mean, the app can advise you where to put your mesh extenders, where you need more capacity, etc. But you don't need AI for that.
Well, I said there are a lot of things that you can use AI for, but indeed you don't need AI for everything.
Mm-hmm. And then to you, Eric, main advantages of USPs over proprietary networks, and any influence or any role for AI?
The interesting part is, and I hope I don't step on some toes, AI is a buzzword. A lot of people and companies are using it, and last month there was the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, and you saw a lot of AI. But if you do a step back, and I think that a lot of people are already using a kind of AI, but they don't call it AI. And that's more or less what's happening. So a little bit in the here and now. I think that the combination of USP and AI is very powerful and can help a lot of people to do the right things right, as you already said. But this is as well of the cases that we have learned that be aware of what you're doing. So complete full automation without a human who is have a look on it, what's happening over there, and why it's happening. It's always a part, and I learned that some vendors are already using it, and more or less, I think everyone does it. If you look to the log data you already have from your central equipment, and you have a look, and with this information, you all can predict what's happening in the network of your end customer, in the complete chain of network, not only in the end user part, but as well in the core part. Just by using the existing data. Is this AI, question mark? We can discuss about it. That's another discussion. Coming back with what I see on the whole standardization, this includes, from my point of view as well, the AI, is that, from my point of view, also the OLT vendors have to be standardized. And what I meant with this is, if you look on standards, you mentioned more or less the same word, it needs to be compatible with ONT, even from other vendors. So not only the vendor from the OLT with his own ONT, but as well with other brands who can connect on a standard way to an OLT in the whole world. So please use the standards, please use this and open your markets and don't close it. That's the whole point from my point of view.
Okay, thank you. Then, Kaiser, the capable consumer, great. Please elaborate a little bit more on that. And Erik, I would be very interested also to hear your point of view on the capable consumer. Please, Kaiser first.
Well, we're all engineers, right? And we try to be very helpful. But sometimes we look on things only from the network or the effective point of view in things without looking into, so where is the consumer in this? So what could they do themselves and actually give them a better experience? And the better experience, to your point, is things work together. Things are open, so you easily can use an app, or you can easily download an application to your gateway, for example. And we see when we are one of those who offer do-it-yourself installation, and from customers who use it, they report back success rate from 95%. I see I have product owners here in the audience, but I don't think we have anyone who's been under 95%. So simple task, and make a YouTube video or just a simple arrow how to do it. People are very capable, and they feel very careful. They care for their home, so do it yourself. You have control. It looks nice. So yes, strong belief in the capable consumer.
Okay.
But added to this, I think we want to be segmented. We want to have offers that attract us. We don't want to be deployed with things that maybe someone who is much more techy than ourselves or high consumers in another area of the city or distributed over the city gets. We want something, as with any offerings, that is targeted to us. And then we want it more or less instantly.
Yes. And Erik, you're nodding. Does that mean that you agree?
Yes and no. If you look to the definition of capable consumers, now becomes very interesting, because with our products from AVM, we're addressing a mass market, and our products can be found in the media market and in Amazon, and you name it. It's really, and we are addressing end user markets. And as already said in my presentation, this is one of the parts, because we still find out that a lot of people are calling the help desk of the ISPs with the complaint, internet is broken. That's not, for me, a capable consumer. That's someone who is he's a user. He uses, and what we do, and I see within AVM, but as well with some other vendors, that you try to do more intelligent way of control and installation. So this means that you help and you're guiding your consumers. How do I first installation, and how can I help myself? By using an app. And as already said, and this is also the future what we see, by using the standard protocols with or without AI, this is a little bit the way forward. So to make consumers with a little bit of knowledge more capable. So in this case, I agree. So you can do, and the same situation of the fiber to the home, do-it-yourself installation. There we have again a really serious problem. If you look to the European market, there isn't a standard fiber termination unit. Everyone is using his own. Everyone is using his own standard, and it starts on the layer 1 from the connector. Do we use LC, APC? Do we use SC connectors? Do we use SC, APC, SC, PC, and so on, and so on, and so on, with all the adapters you can find. So this makes it for the whole market, and don't look in a particular country, but just look in a European perspective, very complicated to make a capable consumer, because in most cases he's not aware what does he has and what is the technology I'm offered by my provider. So yes, but as an industry we have to be more on standards, and it starts from layer 1 by the definition, what's the standard fiber optic interface, going up to how to help the customers by using the apps, so he can control his elements, what he likes to control. So it's both directions.
Yeah, but I agree with you. When you do talk about capable consumers, it's about spending efforts on making them capable and what they are willing and even enthusiastic to do. And then fully subscribe to the view that if you focus on just coverage rather than penetration, then you may focus on the wrong things. Things get in the way for penetration because you allow different connectors, different set of installation, rather than say our target is to have everyone using the fiber rather than having the opportunity out in the street.
Okay. Good. Thanks for that. Fascinating things. Before we open to the audience, another question to you, Carl. You talked about 10, 25 gig now speed. In the future, 50 and 110 is still, I think, for most people still some years or at least some time away. Is speed still the most important parameter here to satisfy customer needs?
Okay. Well, I would first like to clarify it on the 10. Of course, we see mass deployments now of the XGS-PON, which is the 10 gig, which is in the network. And of course, before it can come to the consumers, you first need a full support and a full operational network on this. So yes, we see that now 10 gig is in mass deployment. I think it's not an understatement saying that nearly all of the operators are deploying in their network from now on 10 gig, so it will take some time before it's fully rolled out. Some networks are fully rolled out, but the point is, when will there be consumers or business customers that will get this service? This will, of course, depend on the rollout of the home devices, the famous ONTs and the gateways. So that's two different things. Secondly, yes, I think speed is still the most important parameter, and for two reasons. The first one is actually the human impatience. You know, nobody here in the room will like to watch a progression bar going slowly or the stalling of a video. So that's the first thing. Secondly, the operators really understand how to market and monetize on speed. That's one point. So my answer is yes. But are there other parameters? Well, the answer is also yes. You talk about latency, you can talk about loss, so reliability. There are other parameters that start playing a role. We see actually that some are trying to market latency, but it's much more difficult to, as I said, market this, but also to monetize it. Nevertheless, there are new technologies that are coming up. There is a new network technology which is called L4S. It stands for low latency, low loss scalable throughput, which is gonna give you, consistency, low latency, also when your PON network and Wi-Fi is loaded or when there is limited bandwidth available. And this becomes interesting because it adds a differentiation to the already low latency we normally have in PON networks, but which could be impacted from time to time because also of loads in the network. So this L4S would add their consistency in that behavior, and that is, in my opinion, something that can be used then to monetize, because a consistency means a predictability, and that you can put into a product with a service level agreement. So, good. So, by the way, I like to mention on the fly That L4S is an invention from Bell Labs, which is part of our company, just for the record, of course.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
So, and then finally, this, you have done another way of monetizing is, for example, with a new technology on slicing, which you could, for example, then combine with L4S to make, a super gaming service or a service for the business when somebody wants to deploy a remote steered application which needs really consistent ultra low latency. So basically, yes, there will be other parameters, and we are working on new technology just to offer the operators more options to monetize their fiber networks.
Great, thanks for that. Any questions from the audience, please? I can't see. No? Everything is clear? You have a mic, okay.
Hello, I have one question for Kaisha. You talk about efficiency, and you said why, and also that customers should appreciate that we are doing something. And I will give one example. We can from AVM systems that consumers is watching Netflix TV on the two TVs at the same time, and we can see that maybe he has a poor Wi-Fi coverage. But what we can set to the customers, because on the other hand we have GDPR, what should we use, or because a lot of this data we should not use for this monitoring and so on. So this is some, I think, obstacle between to find capable and efficiency, and there is an obstacle with GDPR.
Okay, so is question around how to segment the full customer base, or how they optimize the network in the home?
No. Do you think that GDPR can prevent some searching capable customers and do that on more efficient way?
Yeah. You should always be very respectful of GDPR, but what you can combine, for example, is to do customer survey. We had one example up on the workshop on Tuesday, where you can see the appreciation of multi-gigabit speeds versus how many persons live in the household, how you work, how many devices you perceive you have in the household. So this is data that you give away for free, right? It's okay because you opted in that it can be used. If you combine that with demographic data and also how you see traffic on your network, then you are absolutely within the frame of what you can use from a GDPR perspective. And if you start a dialogue with the customer, if you use communication from your CRM system, for example, and you can track what is interesting for them when you send out tutorials or interesting reads, how to use a USB-based app, for example, then you have a communication, and the consumer is all open to have that. And you absolutely don't have a GDPR problem.
Good. Any other questions, please? No? Then I have a question to Erik. If I'm then my internet provider and I like to use a USB, what would I need to do?
First of all, USB is a starting point. So that means that only a USB system is something not so worthwhile. Let's say it's very nice. You need the integration of your existing software to make it worthwhile for you as an internet service provider. The platform, let's say the basics, is offered by using the USB platform. That's the concrete where you build all your systems on it. So this means that if you go a little bit steps forward, that when I like to use security applications, I use the USB as communication platform. when I like to have Wi-Fi management and when I have a few pixels of Wi-Fi monitoring, I use the USP for the collecting database and to feed with this my internal systems and how you can distribute this information and to help your end customers. So there are a lot of USP vendors, and some of them are already here at the fairground. You can find them. They can help you with this. But in the end of fact, you need a complete solution with as basic, with as CPE, who is capable for your running USP. Of course, this is step one. Then second is how to integrate this in my complete network from the internet service provider, and be aware of the elements we already have heard in my talk about the ONT element. And last but not least is how to present this to the end customer. They're really using it. Is as a standard interface by communicating to apps running on a mobile device. So there's a lot of steps what you have to do, but do it right and do it on a standard way. And that's always the main approach. So get rid of legacy protocols. Just an example, running a management system that only can control a part of the complete line is, from my point of view, not the right way to go forward, as you need something which can control most of your network elements from, as perspective from the internet service provider. So this includes starting with the mobile device we're running in a household, by a repeater, by the CPE part, by the fiber part, or the DSL or the DOCSIS part. Let's say it's the whole chain. And within the broadband forums, there are again more discussion. Okay, but can we go a step further? So to how to collect, but this is not at this moment, but it's on the discussion, how we can add even more elements in it. So it's network elements more running in the core of the networks. So those elements are all already on the discussion. It's not finalized yet. It's still, those elements are, as I said, yeah. And there's a lot of, how do you name it? Partners involved in this type of discussion, so it will be, from my point of view, a little bit longer time. But anyway, this is the go way forward. And already said, the second part is the CSA, the standard organization behind Method, also to integrate this in this USP. So you see USP becoming stronger and stronger and stronger in the coming years. From my point of view, the right approach to have management and control and to help your customers.
Okay. Good, but then tell us also, elaborate a little bit more on the one box and two box solutions here.
Yeah, as I already said, the problem from my point of view by using two box solution is that the internet service provider is most cases not aware of what's happening in the first box, in this case the ONT. Because the network providers tells to the internet service provider, this is my responsibility, go away, don't bother me. But the problem is that the phone calls are done by the end customer to the internet service provider. And it makes more easy, more quick to help the end customer when the internet service provider is aware of the whole chain. So this means the whole part, the ONT part and the CPE part in one solution, in one case. So you see a lot of countries, they started with two-box solutions and go back to one-box solutions just by make this whole management information we already have seen and to control all those stuff more easy and more based on a standard way. So the ISP becomes more and more in control of the whole chain. And as already said, the ONT part can be done by using the controller, that's how you name it, or the user interface, what you call it, by using the controller for the network provider. So the network provider has, it all runs in the same system, and 369 system, all using the same data model, but the network provider has access to the, let's say, the ONT elements from this data model, and the internet service provider has access to the rest of the elements from this data model. What is his responsibility? So that was more or less the whole core of my discussion. By using the USP, you can do it in one element, in one in this case a CPE, and the USP can offer the services and the control to the responsible parties in this case.
Okay.
But it would substantially increase the complexity. Plus, you would have to change the agreements between the open access network and the ISP, for example, which is a very common way. And you have quite a lot of ISPs on one fiber, so
It depends.
it takes business changes as well to implement. It's just not just the technical.
I agree with you. It depends as well on how far is the deployment in a particular country. If you have a country where you see it's completely two-box solutions for years, then it takes more effort and more time to change it. But if you look to the German market, who is a little bit behind deployment of fiber solutions, this approach will work very fine in this case. But you look to the European perspective, as already said, we have a lot of countries who started with a two-box solution and coming back to one-box solutions because of power usage. You need 2 times of power, the power from the ONT, and behind you need the power usage of the CPE. So this is one agreement. And this is not in line what the European community likes, because they are telling us as a manufacturer, you have to be sure that your power consumption is under control. So everyone likes to lower the total of power consumptions. And to get rid of one network element is a way of lower your total power consumptions. But I agree with you, it is not only a technical discussion, it is a political discussion. It has to do with local laws, because there is the BEREC controlling the whole things, but we all know here in this panel, the BEREC is always its local flavors. And it says that one country, this is the standard solution, and the other country, this is the standard solution. So this is still a problem what we see in Europe. We think we do all things on the same way, on the same elements, but the BEREC is not strong enough that they say, okay, this is a European discussion, and you have to do it on that way in every country. That's not the case.
I like to give Carl sorry, Kaiser, but I like to give Carl a opportunity to comment also on this.
Yes, I like to very much do, because it's also a very lively discussion with us. But I think there are also different operating models with the fiber cos, and then of course with, let me call it, the integrated operators, to differentiate from the converged ones here in
so
the
NetCo versus the ServCo.
And you see there indeed, for me there is no discussion on one side, to put it clear, that USP is something we are looking for as well device management, Wi-Fi management, and application management. I think that is set. But the discussion about do we have one or two box, that also is very strongly driven by the request of this infracos to have full control over their fiber network. And then the complexity, well, they will then argue that the complexity is just an Ethernet connection. That is not that complex. And I think that discussion will probably go on. I don't have a view yet where this will end, but I think it's now a lively discussion, and we see actually we still provide both options fully, because we see there is full market demand for it.
Yeah.
That's one.
Yeah, and I mean, we also have both options available and fully support the USP. But I think when you have a one-box solution, that also means that you have the gateway close to where the fiber comes in, which also means you will have more extenders if you have a house. So it may save power consumption in one end, but you spend it in another end.
Maybe I'm right. It depends again on the country. If you look where we're entering the fiber into your home, that's more or less the case. If you look to the typical Dutch situation, we have a metacast, and a metacast means that we have someone by the entry door. We have a closet, and there is your electricity, there is your gas, there is your water, and in most cases as well your internet connectivity on which technology, on copper, DOCSIS, or fiber. So, and as we all know, not everyone is sitting in the closet to do his job. It's mainly in the living room or in the so in this case, it's something where you can see. But anyway, if you look to what the industry is working on, and how we go forward and how we go to the next steps, I think still this, if we do the power savings on that element, we can use new techniques, and this is also under discussion if you look here, based on what you already said, based on Wi-Fi access point or Wi-Fi repeaters as well. But as well, the discussion is on the table, why don't we use in-home fiber technologies to distribute? Would have lower power. This is not finalized yet, and at this moment we don't need it. But you have to consider when, and I believe that Carol is right, if we are offering 100 gig connectivity lines from the outside world, how to distribute this to the end device. This might be the next problem. And there are a lot of discussions to do this, and it doesn't matter whether you have the element, you have to distribute it to the end devices. And in this case, it will be very interesting, okay, what technology will there be? And from my point of view, at the current situation, Wi-Fi 7 in most cases with the full spectrum is enough. So we can do it, but if we go above the 50 gig and 100 gig and even more, then it will be very interesting to see what's happening in this case.
Carla, Jörg, I need to stop you there. We are slowly running out of time, and I just want to make sure that there are no burning questions to be answered here in the last minute from the audience. Doesn't seem so. Then a big thank you for coming, a big thank you for the panelists for the interesting discussions, and thank you from my side also.